Shalom, shalom, shalom. Israel giving all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushua, Ba'ashim Chakadash, the one instead of apostles, the others, Jim, Masruwa. Salutation to Akim out there, pushing the word and truth and city, risking your freedom in your life to do so, more so now than ever before, for we are close to the end. This is not going to be a long video, but I told you so message, okay? For the scoffers and the people that think it was a joke, that still think it's a joke, this is just to confirm the words of the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shah, the Heavenly Father, through his only begotten Son, his first begotten Son. Ezekiel 33, verse 33, and when this cometh to pass, Lord will come, then shall they know that a prophet has been amongst them.
So what I've been saying for a while now is finally coming true. And what we're seeing around the world is what's called the end of globalization.
Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America.
So this is a video from Andre Jit. I used to be subscribed to him on my other page, but he has some insightful information about investments and stuff like that. But what he's talking about now is the start of the New World Order, which is pretty much the fall of Babylon the Great. All right? Let me get that real quick. Prophesied against many. This is Jeremiah 28, verse 8. The prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms, of war and of evil and of pestilence. All right. So, people like to scoff and say, you guys, y'all like to, you guys in particular, the so-called, not the so-called, the Hebrew Israelites, which is you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, the ones that's out there pushing this word and truth and sincerity, risking your freedom in your life to do so. They like to say, you're fear-mongering, okay? You're speaking of war. You want these things to happen. But if you don't know, the scriptures tell you, the prophets, what we're doing now is no different from what they used to do back in the days. What they did back in the prophets of old, okay, said it had prophesied, meaning you said before something happened. So you prophesied against many countries, okay? You said evil was coming. Most of the prophets in the Bible always spoke about a downfall of a kingdom, a war that was going to take over a specific kingdom at the time. So yeah, we're doing the same thing in this lot, which we're speaking about one of the greatest empires in world history, which is Babylon the Great, aka America. All right, the whore that sitteth upon the beast. It says against great kingdoms. Okay, America is a great kingdom. Rome was a great kingdom. Greece, Persia and the Medes. Okay, Babylon. These are all great Egypt. These are all great kingdoms at one point. And it says a war and of evil and of pestilence. Right. So we're saying these things are coming. Look at the value of silver, skyrocketing, man. Gold is through the roof. These are all indications of a fall of a kingdom, man. The valuation of the U.S. currency, the U.S. dollar. All right, this is all a part of it. It says, so I was getting Ezekiel 33, verse 33, and this is an AI overview breakdown. It says Ezekiel 33, verse 33 signifies that when the Most High's warnings and prophecies delivered through Ezekiel as a watchman finally come to pass. And it says, in parentheses, like the destruction or restoration of Israel/Judah. The people will finally understand that a true prophet had been among them, even though they had previously ignored his messages as mere songs or entertainment. And that's exactly what people do. All right. They did the same thing with Noah. They did the same thing with Lot. All right. But more specifically, the story of Noah. Because, Yahweh Shah, when he was talking to the disciples, he gave a reference at how the same thing that was taking place during the time of Noah is going to take place now, meaning they were eating and drinking, marrying, giving unto marriage until, Noah entered into the ark. So it's showing you that it was a significance or a parallel between how the time of the Son of Man is going to be like that time, meaning it's going to be business as usual. People are going to be singing and dancing, marrying, doing all types of things that's not under concern or not heeding what's to take place, which is the return of the Lord. So when the Lord returns, is going to be a surprise to a lot of people. All right. So it says, even though they had previously ignored his messages as mere songs or entertainment, right? They look at us as just entertainment. It's fun. It's funny. It's crazy. We had guys that, when we used to be at 34th and 7th, they'd be out there with a beach chair. They come out there just to hear us curse out, Esau. But, the energy of the room switch when they starting to see what we saying is true and that it's coming to pass that, oh, they're not lying. This is actually going to happen, But by that time, it's going to be too late. The doors of mercy is going to close, all right? Jeremiah 50 and 23. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation amongst the nations? Right. When we go into this video, which is, I think this is a great video to watch, it speaks about, many nations coming up to challenge the U.S. dollar. All right. You got something called BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South America, which they're all uniting to create their own currency to fight against the U.S. dollar. Also, Saudi Arabia did a deal with China and stopped trading U.S. dollars, stopped buying gold, trading U.S. dollars for gold. For oil. Why is it so bad? It's because the dollar is backed by oil, meaning if the dollar is no longer denominated through oil transactions, the dollar has no backing, no power. Meaning you can't print the dollar without it being worthless. See? So ultimately, it's like now you got to create a new currency to stabilize the American economy, man. This is a bad sign globally because everybody used the United States dollar for trade. A privilege that only America had for the better part of like 70 years after World War II. So it's showing you that this is a rapid decline of, Babylon the Great, aka, America. That things are starting to really, really heat up. Tensions are high about what's going on. He goes into it.
Far sure. Find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it. The fact is, it has left America behind. It has left the American workers behind.
So now Japan is being forced to repatriate its capital back, sell their US treasuries, just like all the other nations in this new world. This weakens the dollar because the dollar needs perpetual demand, and that demand is disappearing. Europe learned if you depend on other countries for your energy and you outsource your safety and your military, well, then you've got no power to enforce the rules. So what we're left with is what was talked about at this World Economic Forum. The question was, how do we divide power in this new world order? That's what I want to help explain. I want to show you who the players are, what each of them wants, and what it might look like in the future.
You can't divide the power, man, because, every nation thinks that they're up next, which is not. Jeremiah 50 and 24. I have laid a snare for thee. Thou art also taken, O Babylon. Thou was not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord. In Babylon, aka Esau, Edom, so-called white man, has striven against the Lord, man. Through many atrocities that he's committed and blasphemous works, man. You're striven against the Lord, and the Lord is going to take you, all right? Which the next verse is going to be the ultimate end of this empire, which is the Lord, verse 25, the Lord have opened his armory and have brought forth the weapons of indignation, for this is the work of the Lord, power of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans, all right? AKA Babylon the Great, man, which is going to ultimately end in thermonuclear war. So it says, even though they had previously ignored his messages as mere songs or entertainment, and it says its ultimate confirmation of the Most High's word, showing the consequence of not heeding prophetic warnings, and they're not heeding our warnings, but ultimately is going to end in their destruction. So I'm not going to harp any more to this. With that, I'm going to give all praise to Yahweh Shem El Shah, Bashim Kakadas, the one to the apostles, elders, GMS, Ruah, salutations to you, Akim. Till next time, Shalom.